Boys Chorus here with us tonight. Well, we're going to turn to our panel, and he is often seen on CNN and Fox News talking politics and pop culture. He's the politics editor for The Source magazine and professor of political science and communication at Hiram College. Please welcome Dr. Jason Johnson. And she is the author of The GQ Candidate and a contributor to both The Huffington Post and TheRoot.com, and a friend of our show here, Don't Sleep. Keli Goff, good to have you back with us. And he is a Columbia University professor, host of the HuffPost Live and Our Black World, Our World with Black Enterprise. Yeah. Make sure I get that right. Hip-hop intellectual, friend of the show as well, friend of mine, Dr. Marc Lamont Hill. Thank you all for being here. And I have to start with a difficult question that many of us behind the scenes have been talking about, so let's put it out there right now. How would this national conversation be different right now if that shooting had taken place in an inner city somewhere?
Well, it wouldn't be taking place. This conversation we're having right now would not be taking place.
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is that we had the tragedy of 26 lives snuffed out in Newtown, a horrible tragedy. We had 26 people shot in Chicago in one night. How many people watching the show did not know that until I said it on air right now, because that's how much, or rather how little news coverage it got.
But do you think this tragedy was so different, Jason and Marc? It was so, it's unique to the point that even if it did take place in an inner city, still the conversation, surely it would have been the same. I would hope it would be the same. The outrage would be the same.
Even if you just photo negative this, first off, if a white man went in and killed 26 black children, I'm pretty sure people would be paying attention. And the fact that they were young kids and they were in school and that teachers tried to protect them, and then the connections to his mother and all sorts of other issues, I think this issue would get the country excited regardless. And I think for once, it's not about what color the kids were or the class level. It's a tragedy, and for once the president's saying
something. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle there. I think on the one hand, if anybody walks in and shoots 26-year-olds, we're going to have a conversation about it. That's irrefutable.
No matter what, okay.
However, I think white misery is less tolerable in this country. Whenever white people get killed, whether it's in a movie theater in Aurora, whether it's in a school in Newtown, Connecticut, there's a sense that this shouldn't happen here. And when you juxtapose that the everyday violence that happens in Chicago or Philadelphia or wherever, there is a different sense. So I think we would be talking about it, but we wouldn't have the same
impact. Can I say something else, too, is that if it were talked about, it would not get the same depth of coverage, the same length of coverage, and the same amount of coverage, and worldwide coverage. And let me say something else. I want to be very clear here. I'm not just talking about race. Class is a huge part of this. Name any major black celebrity, Will Smith or whoever, and if their kids were in a classroom like that, of course it would get coverage. But in terms of, this was partially covered because elected officials and a lot of middle-class Americans related to the families who were touched by this tragedy. They don't relate to a lot of urban people.
Let me turn to what has been also a part of the conversation. We need to talk about gun laws, we need to talk about gun control, but do we need to be talking about God? Because my pastor, first thing out of his mouth in church on Sunday, guns are not the problem. It's it's prayerlessness in our society. It's evil spirits coming into our society. Okay, I tweeted that out and I got a backlash, but I got something here as well. You know, some people support that. I got something here from A.R. Bernard, pastor here in New York, says, you cannot legislate the human heart. Now, when people want to talk about that part of the story, shouldn't that be a part of it? Our faith, our religion, and putting some of that back into our community. And if you say it like they said the same thing Governor Huckabee said, essentially, and he's been blasted for it. What place is it?
It almost infuriates me, right?
Whenever
there's a tragedy, people say, well, it's because y'all don't have enough God. We had an earthquake in Haiti, and Pat Robertson said it's because they were cursed by the devil. No, Haiti was cursed by France. When you look at what happened in Connecticut the other day, it wasn't a lack of God. It was the fact that a person who was mentally disturbed had access to a weapon of war. And if you think prayer will stop violence, look at all those kids hurt in Catholic churches. Look at all those kids hurt in places where people pray all the time.
You're talking about we're talking about one instance. No one prayer is going to stop one thing, or a lot of prayer is going to stop one guy from doing one thing. But the issue they're trying to bring up is that there's some kind of lack, that there is a lack of some kind of moral fiber, something we are losing that we need to get back is the point that they are making.
I don't think there's a lack of moral fiber. We got bad parents, and we've always had bad parents, and that's what this is really about. I know this is unpopular to say. The system kind of worked in this situation. He wasn't able to buy a gun. The school already had security for keeping people out. This is about a bad parent who had a mentally disturbed son who did nothing to keep that son from getting access to guns. And that's something that we can't legislate. That's something that we can't pray about, and unfortunately, that's what happens. Sometimes people go crazy and do bad things.
It doesn't belong, and that you all are saying to me that this is not, it should not be a part of the conversation as we're talking about where to move forward and keep these things from happening. We should have the NRA, we should have the pro-gun and the anti-gun folks, but we should not have members of the clergy sitting around the table.
No, they should be. But I would say slaves should say pray while running, right? You can pray and have faith, but you also need to do something.
Common sense.
Yeah,
and I was just about to say, my mom's who's a very devout Christian, is a big fan of saying, I get sick and tired of people blaming God for stupidity, for the stupidity of man. So absolutely pray, but also try to use the common sense that God gives us to try to do something on the ground that we can tangibly do, and passing stricter gun laws is one thing we can actually do.
All right, we're not done here. We're gonna turn back to somebody who was just named the Person of the Year. If you all haven't seen Time Magazine, we're gonna talk about that and what that man hopes to do with some of these gun laws. Also, we're gonna be talking about the triumphs and challenges of Black America in 2012. That's with our panel next. Stay with us on Don't Sleep.